Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad with Brother David Wood and Brother Al Rasuli. So glad that you're with us today. Remember, this is a live talk show, Mubashar in the Flesh, 248-416-1300. The lines are open. We'd love to hear from you concerning the nature of Islam. Muslims, if you wish to defend your faith that it is not anti-Jew, then give us a call. But Brother David, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have many calls from Muslims, because according to Brother Al Rasuli, according to what I know, and according to what I know of what you know, Islam is definitely anti-Jewish. Is that the case? If so, do you have any further evidence from the Hadith or from the Quran to support this view?
Islam is anti-everybody. I just want to clarify that. And here you find a massive difference between Islam and Christianity and Judaism. The Jews believed that they were God's chosen people, but it was by grace. They hadn't done anything especially wonderful to merit God's favor. God just chose them. So it was nothing that they had done to make God choose them. It was unmerited favor. So they didn't view themselves as somehow naturally the greatest people in history. God's grace chose them. Yeah. And Christians, we believe we're sinners. Paul called himself the worst of sinners. So we believe we're sinners. We're saved by grace. God doesn't look at us and say, wow, those are some really great people there. That's not how it works. So we don't look at ourselves as the greatest of all people. We're saved by God's love and God's grace.
Amen.
Muslims, however, view themselves as the best of people. They're just the best. And this comes from the Quran itself. I'll read you a verse, Surah 3, verse 110, says, "Ye are the best of peoples, evolved for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in God." So Muslims are the best people. They're just the best. That's why Allah loves them. They're already the best, and God looks at them and says, wow, what wonderful people. I really like them. Now, compare this with the Jews and the Christians. How do we rank? If we reject Islam, which we do, if you're still a Jew and still a Christian, you reject Islam. But where do we rank? Well, let's read it. Those who reject the truth, and this refers to Islam, those who reject Islam among the people of the book and among the polytheists will be in hellfire to dwell therein. They are the worst of creatures. So Muslims are the best of all people, and Christians and Jews and polytheists, because we reject Islam, we're the worst of creatures. We're the worst of anything that's been created. So you have in Islam this view that Muslims are superior and Christians and Jews are inferior. And I want to point this out because this is a lot of the reason behind Muslim anger towards the West. They look at Israel. If you're a Muslim, it makes no sense for Israel even to be there. They're an inferior people. Muslims are better. Allah is on their side. Well, how is it that these Jews keep beating Arab nations over and over and over again? How is it that they keep defeating the Muslims? It makes no sense, and it drives Muslims crazy. How is it possible that the United States is the most powerful nation in the history of humanity when it's not a Muslim country? Shouldn't it be Muslim countries that are the most powerful nations in history? Of course it should be. So this is really a problem for Islam. They have a superiority complex. They view themselves as superior and everyone else as inferior, but they look around and the Muslim nations are totally backwards when it comes to science and technology. They're some of the most horrible places in the world to live. The worst place in the world to live right now is Somalia because of what Muslims are doing there. And you look at the best places to live. Where would everyone in the world want to go if they could move somewhere? The United States or other Western nations.
Brother David, yes. We just reported Wednesday night that a new secular report came out that the most peaceful place to live on earth is New Zealand, but the 4 lowest spots of the most dangerous and least peaceful places to live on earth were Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, and Sudan. And as we know, the 4 lowest spots all have one thing in common. It's Islam.
Yes. And this is, see, when Muslims look at this, they say, all right, wait a minute, we're the best of peoples, And all these Western nations are the ones that have prospered. They're the best country. They have the most prosperous countries in the world. They excel in science and technology. Anyone who wants an education goes to some kind of Western nation. And they have to, if you're a Muslim, you have to deal with this. And they say, all right, how do we explain this? And there are two main explanations they give. Some think, well, Muslims have backslidden and they're not taking Islam seriously enough. And so Muslims have to crack down in Muslim countries and get people to really take Islam seriously, because then Allah will bless us and allow us to go conquer the infidels. And this is really the driving force behind groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, who are cracking down, trying to enforce a strict version of Sharia law. The driving force behind them is Allah, by using these Western nations, is punishing us for being too liberal. And so the solution is to crack down on ourselves, to crack down on fellow Muslims, to beat women, to start beheading people again, to start chopping off hands and feet, because we need to start doing this so that Allah will start blessing us again and allow us to conquer them. That's one view. The other view is Allah is allowing these nations. It's not a problem with Muslims. It's not that Muslims have done anything wrong. It's not that Islam has become watered down. Allah is simply allowing these Western nations to exist to pose a kind of pose a challenge, something, an obstacle, something for Muslims to overcome.
Right.
So either way, the solution is, one, you have to crack down and enforce Sharia law and start stoning people for adultery and things like that, or you have to go out and wage war against the unbelievers and engage in acts of terrorism, because Allah is presenting these unbelievers to you as a test to see if you will conquer them in obedience to Him. So either way, the solution is absolutely horrible, when Muslims should be asking themselves, wait a minute, what's the real reason that Islamic countries are so backwards and that Western nations are so prosperous? It's not because Allah is blessing the Western nations in order to curse the Muslim nations because of disobedience. It's not because Allah is presenting a test. It's because Islam is false. It keeps its adherents in the 7th century, and other nations have prospered because they have better systems. They have better systems of government. They have better views. They have better ideologies, and that's why these nations have prospered. So this should be something that causes Muslims to doubt Islam, and instead they go on attacking other people and trying to enforce Sharia law even more, when Sharia is the cause of all their problems to begin with.
Let's stop right there, Brother David. That is excellent. And as you pointed out, the countries that are prospering in the world today, primarily, and I would say almost exclusively, either are countries that were based on a more Christian perspective, or countries that have directly benefited from the countries that are of a Christian perspective. Japan is doing well. Well, the United States rebuilt Japan. Germany did well. Well, the United States rebuilt Germany. China's doing well. Who's buying all their goods? So that's exactly right. And this is the idea of the program. We're not presenting Islam in this light just to be negative. We want to show that Islam is not true. It does not make sense. It is filled with hatred, and specifically for the Jews. Yes, Jews and Christians. Yes.